Would you mind just sharing about yourself, about what is it you do?
I want to grow this. I want to make it the best thing ever.
And you are basically bringing those technologies.
You just did all these changes. Why are you changing things again? I'm like,
So they're not gonna need you as much. Are you afraid of that, or not as much?
so sometimes if I've got like a client problem or the sort of two pillars, like it is, but when I say two pillars, like one,
Like where you can offset different things. It's actually important to have a really good accountant to deal with.
so they're going to start taxing super funds if they've got business investment or anything like that, which is a bit scary.
How is it with crypto trading in Australia? Is it taxable?
But then the judge made an argument that it was currency, like it was where anyone who's made money on crypto could actually have it completely.
Thank you very much, Lawrence, for coming for this podcast. For start, would you mind just sharing about yourself, about what is it you do?
Yeah, so I'm Lawrence Petruzzelli. I'm a tax accountant in Australia, and that's probably one of my hats, my main sort of gig. But also am a content creator. I do a lot of like straight interviews as well, different bits and pieces, a little bit of social media, marketing, and everything else that you do when you know operating your own business. So the business, it's called MDB. It was actually started by my parents, and then I'm in a succession plan taking it over. So they're just sort of semi-retired, and I'm running a lot of the business now as well, which has been a good challenge. So yeah, that's pretty much
Okay.
the
Amazing.
cliff notes for me.
So you have the tax accountant like a company in Australia, is that correct?
Yeah. So we're what's called like public accountants. So we face the public and we help small businesses and more like high net, like we help individuals as well, but we mainly focus on business.
Mainly focus on business. And when you obviously taking over the parents' business, what do you think like is the biggest challenge of doing all of that?
Probably all the different changes I'm trying to drive in the business, because it's sort of like I've already thrown a lot of changes in, but it's a team that's always been used to having like my parents around and a certain way of doing things. And I've come in and I've been disrupting it for the last probably 6, 7 years, just changing the technology. And then I'm constantly just iterating and making a lot of changes, because my parents were like a little bit more stable, like established, the business doing, you know, X amount of revenue and everything. And they're happy. It's like, yeah, it pays for them to go on holidays and everything else. Whereas I come in and I'm like a bit more of a shark and go, I want to grow this. I want to make it the best thing ever. I want to like serve our clients better than like anyone else can ever serve. And like, how can we do that? How can I like make things here where it's like one, operationally efficient, but also how can we have like the best people? How can we deliver the best service, use the best technology? So I'm constantly doing all that sort of stuff, and then also creating content on top, which one, to drive traffic, but also to help educate just the general public.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like with a lot of businesses, when they are obviously, let's say older people, they are obviously either passing it on or they will be willing to sell it. Like a lot of these operations are done a little bit the old school way, right? And you are basically bringing those technologies into that. And are they okay with that because you are taking over, or they are telling you like, I'm not sure about that one, or what do you think?
Yeah, so a lot of the initiatives, a lot of people, sometimes initially there's a bit of pushback. I think there's a bit more trust driven now, just because of some of the initiatives that I have done, where at first there was a lot of pushback and people like complaining. And then on the other side, it's a bit like, oh, thank God we did that now. Like that they sort of can see. But I think it's like anyone, it's, when you got a lot of work on and you're trying to deal with stuff, and then there's something else added on top where it's like, oh, now we're going to change how we do things. Or they've just come through and gone, oh, we're just gone through a big change and a big cycle. It's like, oh, now you want to change things again. Because I am sort of one of those people that likes to keep, like, because I'm constantly learning new stuff, and then I'm like, oh, we can do this better. Like, let's change that. And then the team's a little bit slow to react to that. Or sometimes they're like, you just did all these changes. Why are you changing things again? I'm like, oh, I'm going to keep growing and adapting.
Yeah, yeah. Especially with the AI and all these tools. Are you afraid of, or anyhow, like for your business, like tax accountants, where people are just going on AI and they'll just type what they need, and after they'll just do a lot of things themselves, so they're not gonna need you as much? Are you afraid of that, or not as much?
I, I'm excited because one, it'll help educate the clients a little bit. They won't be able to implement what the AI says. So, and I've done a lot of research with the AI, and with yeah, it gives you some basic stuff.
Mhm.
It's not really that great at going into deep attack strategies, and a lot of times it's like what you don't know that you don't know, and that's where the experience comes in, and that's where I don't think, from an advisory point of view and just a customer relationship and that side of things, we're never going to get replaced by AI.
Mm.
One, because people want the relationship and everything else, but the AI is just going to be very cookie cutter, sort of just do this and be government compliant and everything else. And yeah, there's always three different ways to go about things. Or there's like what I call a bit more outside the box thinking, which you're not getting with AI at the moment, maybe in the future. But I am excited because I do know like even in the US, there's like a shortage of 180,000 accountants. In Australia, there's a massive shortage. So I'd love for AI to take over most of that just boring,
Mm.
mundane stuff that isn't needed. But our accounting softwares aren't, then they're nowhere near there yet. And the sort of
Mm.
AI things I have tested, they're not anything super great yet. So unfortunately, we are stuck with needing to use a lot of personnel to get a lot of
Mhm.
a lot of the back end stuff done, especially as you get more complicated businesses and like larger businesses and all that.
Yeah. Mhm. I think it can obviously help answer some basic questions to people, right? So they can stop bothering you with some basics, which is good. It's a quick research. But on the other hand, like even I don't know, some people said like, yeah, you can write the contracts, like you don't need lawyers or whatever. But even though like you wouldn't know if it's good enough to stand in the court in that case. So you can ask questions, but after for example, I prefer still to go to my lawyer or solicitor in here in Scotland and ask him like, is that really right? What can you do about it? And there still needs to be the person, the company who is dealing with that, because I think it's going to take a very long time before people will 100% believe like whatever the AI is saying, it's right, right?
Yeah, and even with the contracts, like I've come across contracts that were even written by lawyers that someone's gone and used. They haven't used like someone that I recommend. And I'll read it and I'll just be like, have you thought of like this clause and this clause and this clause? They're like, what's that? I'm like, go to your lawyer and just ask them about it. They go to the lawyer and they're like, oh, that's a good idea. Where'd you come up with that? So it's just
Yeah.
you have to remember it's AI thinks like people at the moment, and it's got similar flaws to us. And if you don't know how to
Mm.
prompt it correctly, you don't know how to ask the right things. Like that person didn't know how to ask the right things to the lawyer. So if they don't know how to ask the right things to the AI bot, they're going to get the same results.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you started using the AI from JT Fox by any chance?
Yeah, I've been using that. Been playing around with it. It's pretty good. I like it. I even I wrote two ads with it, which got me a little bit of a lower cost per lead, which was good. I think yeah, it was like 10% cheaper than the other one that I had, which I just got it to redo the existing ad that I had and said put JT Fox's flair on this and
Mhm.
did much better. Because like yeah, any sort of improvements that you can get on the marketing angle is always quite good. And I've even used it just to bounce ideas off. So sometimes if I've got like a client problem or something else that's client related, I might chuck it in there and just run scenarios or just say, hey, what would JT say in this thing? Or I'd say, this is a client situation. This is my analysis. This is my idea. What do you think? And sometimes I'll be like, yeah, that sounds good, but then come from this angle rather than that angle. And I'll be like, ah, sweet. So sometimes it's good just bouncing ideas off it. I don't see it as like a complete replacement just yet. Hopefully it evolves and adapts, but I've been finding there's been really, really helpful.
Mm.
So,
Yeah,
have you been
absolutely.
using it much or?
Yeah, just actually before our call, I was set up in the ad with it. Was asking about like I'm in a property business, so I want to buy properties which are needs a refurbishment. But when I checked online, like there is not many, availabilities where I want to buy. So I was just asking the questions, and it really gave me a good idea of how to set up the ad, because he said like, if you do it this way, you'll be like everybody's the same, which are saying the same things, which I actually see those ads from other people.
Yeah.
But he kind of position it differently. And I just set up one before our call. I need to set up actually a few more. And I'll see how it goes. Obviously, I'll see the results. But yeah, I'm excited to see how it's going to go. But in general, obviously, we are both in a GT Fox family. Like, how are you finding it so far? You joined, you mentioned in September. So do you see any big results for you, outcomes, like people, relationships?
Yeah, so there are a few people like locally that I've connected with. Even one of the people in there I bought, they're actually a cattle farmer. So they sent me a
Mhm.
delivery of meat, which was awesome. I was like, oh, cool, get a delivery because I like my steaks and stuff.
Perfect.
But yeah, just everything that I've learned from him, even from some of the tour day events, the coaching, like literally one day of coaching, like the session that I had has already yielded back more than what I've invested in JT so far.
Mhm.
So that sort of piece of advice I got from that was really, really good. Um, and then I'm excited for the events. I'm speaking at the family reunion, which is at the Sydney Opera House, which is like an iconic
You think there?
event in Australia, like sorry, iconic venue in Australia. And I've been preceding that and just even using that as like an authority piece. Even because
Mhm.
people see my content and stuff, so I just say I'm also interviewing someone at the Sydney because I do a lot of street interviews, and I'm like, oh, I'm also now interviewing someone at the Sydney Opera House, so it's a good little segue. And a few of the other things I learnt from JT as well. I got another speaking gig that I did in front of 350 digital marketers, so I got some photos of me speaking on stage, so I use that as
Mhm.
authority. So it's just all the different things that I learn about like branding and being the authority and everything else from JD, which has
Mhm.
really, really helped. Yeah, because even like from an organic standpoint, I'm getting 2 to 4 people booking my calendar
Mhm.
every week without even needing to run any ads. And then I got my ads on top, which is just supercharging that.
Mhm. Yeah, sounds great. Perfect. Glad to hear. Regarding when you mentioned a few times about the content creation, are you doing that for your business, like your tax company, or do you do also for others or anything else you do?
Yeah, so it's all for me at the moment. The sort of 2 pillars, like it is all aimed at finance and tax. But when I say 2 pillars, like one part is personal branding, because I'm just trying to really build up my personal brand, and then the other part's to grow the business. So like the more straight interview stuff, that's probably a bit more personal branding, a bit more entertaining, type stuff. And then I've got more talk to camera where it's a bit more educational. So then I flip between tax education, business education. And
Mhm.
that's why like I'm not even worried about what you were saying before about AI and people looking stuff up because I'm trying to give it all away for free on my Instagram page anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I think that's the way, like you give a lot of information or pretty much everything to people, but it's so overwhelming, it's so much. They still need you because they have they need to focus on other things and not just learning skills how to be accountants. So that's why they need you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The way I say is like I educate them so then they become aware or that there's a potential solution or something that they can do, but
Mm.
then they're gonna have no idea about how to actually do it. So then they just pay me to implement.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was reading actually before a book from it's called Tax Free Wealth from it's an accountant from Robert Kiyosaki, uh, Tom Wheelwriter, I think is his name, and he was mentioning in the book like the different advantages of tax law. It was based for the USA people, especially, but he said like the laws can are in most of the countries very similar. And I don't know how many pages it was, but I'll just say the number. He said, like, let's say the tax law, it's like 3,000 pages of tax law, but he said, like, there's only like 30 pages is how to increase your taxes, but the rest is how to reduce them, like where you can offset different things. And a lot of accountants, they are taught at school to basically just deal with whatever they will get, and they are not looking at the little bit from different side, like what they can reduce to people. So it's actually important to have a really good accountant to deal with that because I see some of my clients as well. I coach like they pay so much on taxes, and I'm like, how is that possible? Like, have you tried to get someone else? And sometimes I hear like, yeah, but I'm with them for 25 years. I really know them. It's like, yeah, you know them, but if they are not if they cannot make it a little bit better, so maybe you should look for someone else. But people are stuck with them from day one, so they don't want to move. Do you have any situations
Yeah,
like that with people around you, like where they have this relationship, and even if the company is not as great, but they are afraid to move? Or
yeah. Like even sometimes, like when I have even jump on a sale with someone and they absolutely hate their prior accountant, but they're still scared to move over. Like they're still, because it's like the devil that you know, or they got that relationship there and they're actually quite fearful. So sometimes that can be a challenge because like it's a challenge, but it's also good because like we've got clients that have been in the firm for like 30, 40 years and still come to us and their kids come to us.
Mhm.
So it's good because we don't get a lot of churn, but at the same time, it does make it a little bit harder when you're trying to grow the business and a lot of people, especially people who are earning a lot more money and they've had that longer relationship, they've had the business relationship, they're a bit harder to sort of sway to move across accountants. Some people that are new to business, they haven't used an accountant or they used a cheaper accountant or someone to do their
Mhm.
individuals and that person's not really a business accountant. They're a bit easier to sort of get
Yeah.
across. But yeah, but if I could choose a country to be born again into and do tax and accounting, I'd definitely pick the US because tax laws there are completely different to here in Australia in terms
Mhm.
of, like what you're saying there, it's 30 pages on how to increase your tax and, yeah,
Yeah.
2,970 on how to decrease it. Australia, it's more like 10,000 on how to increase it and maybe one page on how to decrease it. And they just keep
Yeah.
adding laws and laws and laws to keep increasing it. So,
Yeah. I think for the like in the books, like especially about the real estate, the tax law is really good in USA for people. In here is in the UK, it's kind of more difficult regarding like you buy a property, you make a profit, and after you want to reinvest in another one, it doesn't matter. You need to pay the taxes on the profits anyway, even if you use all the money for another deal. It doesn't matter in here,
yeah,
but USA you can kind of use those tax advantages to move to another deal. So which is really good to be honest, because it can save you a lot. Okay,
yeah.
actually remember the one actually interesting story with the tax with accountant. I had the accountant in here in UK, and he was doing my taxes, my VAT, everything. And one day I want to speak to him. I'm just, trying to reach him, and I cannot reach him. I'm like, oh, what is he doing? Maybe busy, whatever. And someone else, I recommend them this accountant. They texted me, it's like, send me article, and my accountant went to jail for 12 years for tax fraud. And I'm like, oh my god. So after I was looking for another accountant, another company couldn't help me. They're like, no, it's a mess. They were like, they didn't know how to help me. So I found someone else, and it took, I think, 2 years dealing with HMRC to solve all the issues. But basically, he never submitted any of my VAT returns or pay any of the taxes. I was just sending him money, and he was just keeping them. And there was very small thing what he was doing compared to the other things, because he wasn't arrested for what he'd done to me. He was arrested what he'd done like 6 years ago to some like to another companies. And I'm like, wow, that's good.
Yeah.
So
It's hard to find a good accountant in the UK. I've got a client that has a UK entity, and the prior people they just didn't submit anything. Same thing. It's like they asked them just to set up a VAT registration. They charged them £5,000 and did nothing. And I was just like, what are you doing with
oh,
these people? So we ended up
oh,
switch. I got involved and I said, no, we need to switch this up and do this because he was using some other aggregator out of New Zealand. And I was just like, I think these guys are taking you for a ride.
hmm. Yeah, somehow for sure, yeah. And what are your bigger plans with this company? Like where you are now, and where do you want to grow it to? Like what are the numbers of your company like?
Yeah. So we're doing 1.8 mil in revenue at the moment. So it's recurring revenue.
Mhm.
Immediately, as in short term, I want to grow it to 2.5. That's sort of my first little milestone that I've been working towards.
Mhm.
And then probably longer term, I do want to. I'll see what happens in the space and everything, but yeah, longer term, I eventually want to hit 8 figures before I would like. I reckon an 8 figure firm is definitely something that I can achieve.
Mhm.
Um, be a lot more staff. Yeah, at the moment
Mhm.
we've got 10 staff, so to
At the
get
moment,
that
you
to yeah,
no.
10 staff all up.
Mhm.
So to then grow that to an 8 figure business, to do 10 mil turnover, that's going to be a lot more staff. Yeah, maybe 40, maybe 40 odd staff. I'm sort of guessing, unless like I think by then AI should help us out. So maybe with 20 staff we'll be able to get it done. See how we go.
And with the staff where you have the 10 people, are there like a specialist in different things with the tax law, or do they do most of the things? And how does it work in the tax company?
Yeah, so we've got different tiers of people between our senior management level, our sort of intermediaries, and then our juniors. We do have one person who's very specialized in self-managed super funds. So that's our like pension system here in Australia.
Mhm.
Or what's the other one? They got like a similar, it's like an IRA in the US. I'm not sure what the UK one is, but yeah, it's just like a pension system that, you know, when you get paid a salary, your employer has to withhold. It's 11.5, it's going up to 12%. And they have to put it into like a fund that you can't touch until you're 65.
Mhm.
Well, there's a few laws to get earlier released, but outside of that, it's basically keeping like you don't touch until you retire. So she's very specialized in that because that's a very
And
heavy
with the
part of the
pension,
law.
is it mandatory, or people can opt out that they don't want that money to be sent there?
It's mandatory.
Okay. In here, you can choose.
Yeah.
The
Mm.
employee can choose. I want. They can opt out. Like, I don't want to receive the pension. It's good for them because obviously they need to put something from their side of the salary, but the employer give them more. So it's good for long term, but they can choose to not to get it. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're an employee here, it's mandatory. And then for business owners, we use it as a bit of tax planning just because super funds are taxed, your contributions are taxed at 15%. And then once you go into pension phase, you're not taxed. So they're a
Hmm.
bit of a better tax vehicle. But now there's some new laws coming in around what's called unrealized gains. So they're going to start
Hmm.
taxing super funds if they've got balances over $3 million. They're going to start taxing them. So just say your property goes up in value, you get taxed on it, even if you didn't sell it, even if you don't have the money. So you have to cough up the tax somewhere. It's like the most
That's
ridiculous bit of
ridiculous.
law.
And what
Yeah.
if the property value will go down in the next 10 years? Are they gonna give them money back?
Oh well, bad luck. It just carries forward. You don't get a refund or anything for it. So you have to pay if it goes up, and if it goes down, then it's bad luck. And then if
Doesn't
you
make
go
any sense.
into yeah, and if it goes up and you paid all the tax, and it goes down, and then you go into pension phase where you're not in a it's a zero tax environment. You lose out on all that. It's not like you get refunds or anything back. You lose all
Mm.
that. So that's why they're just tightening
Mm.
it up and trying to tax more just because the government here just spends way too much money. Yeah, 70% of all new jobs created was by the government. But they say, oh, we've
Mm.
got low unemployment, and then in the private sector, they're all our NDIS is our national disability insurance scheme. So that's also basically government funded, but private entities get the money and they look after people with disabilities, and that made up the majority of the other jobs that have been created. So I'd estimate
Mm.
about 90% of all jobs in Australia were created by government spending and not actually by productivity or business investment or anything like that, which is a bit scary.
Mm.
But yeah,
You said
that's a
70% of all employment in Australia is from the government?
new jobs created.
New jobs. New jobs.
Yeah,
Wow.
so from 2024 to like recently, 70% of all the new jobs that were created, they were at a public level from council, state, or federal level,
Hmm. Hmm. So
which
what
to
are
me
your
isn't
plans?
sustainable.
You want to move to USA to have better taxes?
Look, sometimes it's tempting, but one thing I do prefer living in Australia. Like it's much safer here than in the US. Like our crime rates are quite low.
Yeah.
I've had a few people that say, come to Dubai and blah, blah. But I'm like, well, I'm a tax accountant. You guys don't pay taxes. What am I going to do? Sit
Yeah,
in my
what are you gonna
funds
do
or
in
something?
Dubai? That's true. And
Well,
how is it?
they
I'm
got
interested.
VAT, so I could do that.
You would get people a chance like, I know you don't pay taxes, but you still need an accountant. Let me help you.
Yeah.
5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you do? Nothing. But you feel good that you helped me.
Mm.
So how is it with crypto trading in Australia? Is it taxable?
So this is actually, I literally just posted a video about this. I'm glad that you asked me. I uploaded it literally like 20 minutes before this call.
Okay.
Um, so it's traded like just shares. So if you trade Bitcoin and then you sell it or you convert coins or anything like that, it's always going to be a capital gain or a capital loss. There recently was a court case because what happened was a Federal police officer stole 81 Bitcoin in 2019 from a wallet after a drug bust, and they're trying to argue that it's information, it's not actual property, so you can't steal information, but they lost that argument. But then the judge made an argument that it was currency, like it was money, and if it's treated as currency in our sort of laws, it's not classed as a capital gain or like a capital asset, which means that if you exchange money for money and you're like, yeah, just as a private person, like if
Mhm.
I'm a private person and I trade US dollars for Australian dollars and I make money on it or I lose money on it, I don't pay any tax because it's just a money to money exchange. So if it gets treated
Mhm.
like that as a private person, all the Bitcoin that anyone's owned and made money on, if this court ruling goes through, means that there'll be no tax on it. So there's about
Yeah.
$1 billion that's been paid to the Australian government on crypto gains that they've worked out that could be a refund if this court case goes through. Now, my feeling and knowing what Australia is like and everything, there's two outcomes that will happen. The ATO will fight it to the highest court of all highest courts, the Australian Tax Office. They'll fight it and try and get a win out of it. And if they can't get a win out of it, they'll go to their friends that are, the current government that's in place. And they'll say to them, hey,
Mhm.
can you write up some legislation to close this off? And it'll get closed off. So I'm not super hopeful on it, but there is a bit of a window that's possible where anyone who's made money on crypto could actually have it completely tax free.
Mhm. Yeah, interesting, interesting. Yeah, I'm just curious about that because I do some trading as well myself now since last year, and uh, and I was just checking like in UK, obviously you need to tax the profits, the gains. After I have a friend, she's doing it also the same in Switzerland. She said like there is no tax for that crypto at all, or Dubai,
Mm.
no taxes, obviously. I was just trying
Yeah.
like
I think Malta's the other place as well.
uh-huh.
There's a few places where and I think Ecuador might be the other one. There's a few places where they got preferential tax treatment on crypto.
Mhm. Mhm. Cool. Perfect. So I think we'll just wrap it up slowly. Is there
Mm.
anything you would like to share, which might be, I don't know, maybe someone has a business. It's usually like a business people are listening and other business people, or they want to get into business. Something you would maybe recommend, something which which helped you at the any stage of on your journey, like JT is recommending us his book. What
Yeah.
what could you maybe share which can help someone who might be on that journey?
Yeah, well, definitely get JT's book because it is a really good book. Um, but I think like one thing that people need to realize, they just really need to know their numbers. And this is something that JT says all the time. It's like you in business, you really need to know your numbers from top to bottom. So that's like from your marketing, your sales, your conversions, all the way to your gross profit, your net profit, everything. Because some people that can be very creative and right brain, they neglect the numbers or they don't like the numbers, and that sort of lets them down. I'm quite lucky that I'm sort of no brain. I got a bit of both. I'm more left brain, but I can do a bit more of the creatives as well, which definitely helps out. But yeah, I think just knowing your numbers, and then I think a lot of people don't realize, like, if you really want to get ahead, like the amount of work that you do have to put in. Like some people do get lucky and you can delegate and do things, but you're always just going to hit a certain level. Um, I know like since I've doubled down and really increased the amount of like work output that I've done, like there's been a lot of impact made. And that's still with like delegating, eliminating. So always try to, eliminate, delegate, automate, or whatever the order is. Sorry, eliminate, automate, delegate. That's the order. So it's like something that I've always been trying to do with anything that I do. And I just like, even when I did my content creation journey, it started with me doing it all myself, the editing and everything else. Then it turned to me using an editor. And now I got a videographer who films me, edits it, dumps it in Google Drive. ChatGPT writes the captions, and
Mhm.
then I upload it. And then maybe the next thing I'll do is get a media person to upload it and everything else. Just depends. But it's just because I've been growing and it's like as the budget increases and like the budget that I can allocate to that because I know my numbers, then I can release that and then I can focus my time on things that are going to make more money. So that's the main thing that I'd give as advice to people.
Yeah, it's great. Great you're sharing this because I'm really right brainer and with the numbers, I'm really learning that to be better with that and understand. That's why I invited one person who is the left brainer to our company or companies to help with this side because like sometimes it's like, oh my God, I don't know. I'm just like, okay, let's just close the deal. Let's just do that. And after I don't know where I am and some of the businesses before I have failed because of that. So definitely knowing numbers, it's a very important part of that. Perfect. Thank you very much for coming, Lawrence, for this podcast. I'll definitely share information in the description everywhere where I can, and I'll be promoting this podcast. So I'll obviously ask you for that. And and I'll see you. I'll see you obviously in some of the events with JT folks.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And thanks for having me on. And are you coming to Mega Success?
Yeah, I'll